was no barrel, nothing to give the impression of it being a gun of any type, so what the hell was it? Whatever it was, it wasn't good. There was only one conclusion. They were under attack. "Attack! Attack!" Lyubo screamed into the radio on his lapel, his heart racing as he stamped on the brakes. The unrestrained Zoran flew forward, his head crashing into the windscreen. "What the fuck, Lyubo?" yelled Zoran. The confined cabin was filled with a feeling of mild heat and the faint smell of ozone. Then the van stopped dead. The digital radio was suddenly silent. The readout went black and the engine cut out as if it had been switched off with the key. "Lyubo, what's happening? Why has the van stopped?" Zoran asked. His question was answered suddenly and terribly as the remaining door on the attacker's van flew open. 3 masked men in dark combat clothing dived out of the van, all clutching submachine guns. The lead man charged past them without giving them so much as a glance as he raised his weapon to his shoulder, sprinting past them towards their police car escort. The thunderous, cracking report of the assault rifle was deafening as automatic gunfire was poured into the Skoda. Lyubo didn't try to look behind, being more concerned with the stocky, intimidating-looking gunman who was now stood directly in front of him, his weapon levelled at their windscreen. Panicking, he reached for the van key and violently wrenched it, but the van was as dead as if the battery had been completely removed. Through his panic, Lyubo was sure he could detect a strange smell, almost akin to the charged ozone smell that often preceded an electrical storm. The last gunman was stood to the left of the van, his legs planted wide, the barrel of his submachine gun pointing unwaveringly at Zoran. Lyubo felt the weight of his pistol in his belt, but knew that any movement towards it would only have one outcome, and that would be bullets crashing into him through the windscreen of the flimsy Fiat. His hands instinctively shot upwards in a gesture of surrender as the unseen gunman behind them continued to stitch the police car with gunfire. He didn't give the police officers a single thought. His only concern was for his own immediate future. "Get out!" commanded the gunman closest to him, pale blue eyes blazing beneath the eyeholes in the ski mask. Lyubo's hand scrabbled for the handle, and, trying not to panic, he opened the door. He stepped out, his hands aloft. "Please, please, I have a daughter," he babbled in terror. "You have one chance to let the prisoner out, or you die," the attacker growled in a pure Belgrade accent. He risked a glance at their police escort vehicle. It looked now more like a colander than a car, and the inside of the vehicle resembled an abattoir. The 2 officers inside were broken shells, their chests studded with blooded holes. The bottom half of the driver's jaw had been blown off, and the top of the passenger's head was missing completely. "I don't have the keys. He does," he said, his voice wobbling as he looked at Zoran. "Keys," the other attacker, a much smaller man, said. Zoran was already out of the van and scrabbling in his pockets for the keys. "Quicker! Fucking hurry up!" the smaller man shouted. Zoran located the keys in his pocket and held them out. The smaller man gestured with his weapon. "Open the back! Now! We are taking Babbage. If you resist or try anything, you both die, here and now. Do you understand?" Zoran nodded rapidly. He turned towards the back of the van and out of sight of Lyubo, who just stood with his hands aloft as the attacker kept his firearm trained on his chest. Lyubo kept his eyes away from him, not wishing to antagonize the man at all. All he wanted was to get home to his wife and kid. Babbage could go free, as far as he was concerned. There was silence for a brief moment, followed by the sound of the van's rear doors being opened. "Handcuffs! Take them off!" came a deep voice from the rear of the van. Lyubo recognized Babbage's voice, bringing back memories of the one time he had crossed swords with that nasty, intimidating thug inside the prison over a minor infraction. And there he was, stood in front of Lyubo, a small pistol in his hand. Babbage was surprisingly short, but stocky, with a thick beard and a pale scar bisecting his forehead. His dark, flashing eyes glittered with menace. The first gunman passed them without pausing and got back into the van, sitting next to the man who was still clutching the strange weapon which had started.